So it surprises absolutely no one that JoJo's Bizarre Adventure has some of the most outlandish powers in anime. Ironically enough, it's one of the most consistent aspects of the show. To the two people watching who haven't seen JoJo, the powers the main characters use are called stands. Stands are psychic manifestations of a user's life energy, and it can manifest in dozens of ways. Some are pretty straightforward, while others are, well, bizarre. And that is what we're gonna look at today. We're looking at some of the most creative stands in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Now, a couple of things before we get started. To help shorten the list, we'll be looking at just the anime's stands instead of all 166 stands the series has as of Part 8. Additionally, we'll be ranking these stands based on creativity and weirdness, so these stands might not be the strongest. In Golden Wind, we get to see firsthand what an evolved stand looks like with Golden Experience Requiem. All of Golden Experience's powers are increased, but what is perhaps the most astounding is the ability to return anything back to zero. What does that even mean? It means Golden Experience Requiem is able to undo anything, a power that trumps even King Crimson and, dare I say it, the world. Anything that happens to Giorno is undone, brought back to zero. This not only includes Giorno himself, but his enemies too. Their actions are undone as well, like nothing ever happened. If you took the phrase, "your face is an open book," literally, you would have Heaven's Door. While it's not suited for direct combat, Heaven's Door poses the ability to transform the victim's body into a book. Their skin is peeled back to reveal pages with their life story written upon it. What makes Heaven's Door truly powerful, though, is that the user can write on a person's pages to rewrite and add anything they desire. Its user, Rohan Kishibe, uses his stand to make people tell the truth or to write instructions or commands, such as to never harm him or to act in a certain way. Stands can affect anything, elements, objects, even time itself. However, one stand was particularly deadly with its use of time, and that was Sethan. Wielded by Alessi, Sethan is a shadow that crawls along surfaces. If anyone steps in Sethan's shadow, they are aged backwards. Polnareff stood in Sethan's shadow for just a moment and was de-aged back to a 7-year-old. If one stands in the shadow for too long, then they're aged back to a fetus and will quickly die. The shadow not only affects users, but their stands as well. We don't often see female stand users. However, the ones we do see are perhaps some of the most creative. Cinderella is an odd stand that allows the user to modify the appearance of anyone they choose. Ayatsuji works as a beautician and uses Cinderella to shape and change her clients' bodies to their specifications. It does this by passing energy through its hands and producing a tape-like substance that Aya applies to her clients to change their body parts. Unlike most stands, whose effects wear off when the user chooses or is killed, Cinderella's modifications can be permanent if they apply a special lipstick after they've been changed. Man in the Mirror, named after the famous Michael Jackson song, is a stand that has access to a different dimension. It and its user Illuso can drag people into a mirror dimension via any reflective surface. What makes this stand so deadly but also creative is that if a stand user is dragged into the mirror world, Illuso can separate a stand from its user. Very few stands can actually separate the bond between a stand and the user. This makes Man in the Mirror invincible as long as it is in the mirror world. The user would be helpless against it without a stand. Only a stand can beat another stand. Now, Justice is a large fog that can be personified as a giant skull with a crown of bones. If its foreboding appearance wasn't enough to unnerve you, then its effect certainly will. If anyone within the fog has a cut or injury, the fog can enter that wound and begin controlling them. Justice takes control of their bodies and their minds as the victim begins to see illusions within the fog. Now, you may be thinking that as long as you don't cut yourself on anything, you'll be fine, but that is easier said than done. Any wound, serious or minor, can be used by Justice. Even a small paper cut could spell doom for people within the fog, which can cover an entire city. Have you ever wanted to eat your problems away? I have, every single day. Well, Pearl Jam would replace every doctor with its amazing ability to cure ailments. Pearl Jam's user, Tonio Trusadari, reads a person's palm to diagnose their problems. After that, he prepares an elegant dish infused with his stand. When ingested, the stand cures the patients of any ailments Tonio picked up in his reading. The actual healing process can be quite painful. Okuyasu had to regrow a tooth to have his teeth fixed. The limits of the stand are unknown, but it is implied that any bodily ailment can be corrected with some of Tonio Trusadari's fine cooking. You know what the most brutal stand's power is? Nothing. Cream is a monster of a stand whose mouth leads to a dimension of darkness. Freaking brutal, am I right? Its user, Vanilla Ice baby, uses Cream to swallow anything in its path. Anything swallowed by Cream is believed to be gone forever into a bottomless void dimension. When Cream swallows himself, however, things get freaky. Cream becomes a sphere of invulnerable destruction that can't be seen, smelled, or heard until it swallows something in its path. It may be blind in this form, but Cream is untouchable, literally. Sticky Fingers is one of the most poorly named stands in JoJo. Obvious dirty joke aside, Sticky Fingers' ability to make zippers on any surface is chiefly used to get out of sticky situations. Additionally, zippers are not primarily sticky. In any case, Bruno Bucciarati uses his zippers for both offense and defense. Any surface his stand touches creates a zipper. He can create entryways in walls and floors using his zippers, but he can also close them, creating the world's most brutal case of zipper snag. Outside of combat, Bruno can freely detach the zippers and even zip two together to create something new. A stand's ability to interact with its environment is mind-bending at times. Spice Girl has the ability to soften anything it touches, making it elastic and rubbery. It's a power-type stand, much like Star Platinum or Golden Experience. Anything Spice Girl punches or hits softens up and becomes pliable, which means it can stretch. What makes this stand so versatile is that it can store this kinetic energy and release the softened material. When it returns to its rigid form, the blowback can be devastating. Unlike the other power stands, Spice Girl doesn't need to keep in contact with material to retain the softness, and the object can remain soft for as long as Spice Girl needs it to be. Stands often take on the user's life force. Rarely do we see stands take on other people. Surface is a blank mannequin doll controlled by Toshikazu Hazamada. Surface could take on the appearance of anyone, minus the stand if they are a stand user. However, if Surface and the person it's copying make eye contact, Surface can take control of the original person and make them copy its moves. Surface's copy ability is no joke either. It copies a person's voice, mannerisms, even their fingerprints. Aside from a stand, Surface becomes a perfect copy. Lovers is the perfect stand for a coward. This tiny, invasive parasite stand amplifies a victim's pain receptors and syncs them up to the user. Any injury Lover's user, Steely Dan, takes, the victim they are currently synced up with takes twice as much pain. Not only is Lover's very small and fast, but the link can be made while Steely Dan is kilometers away. The only downside to this stand is it is extremely weak. It can barely lift up a hair by itself, which is why it mostly stays in the victim's brain. If I could turn back time, I would do so many things differently. Moody Blues, Leonia Baccio's stand, has perhaps one of the most interesting time-related abilities we have ever seen. Rather than manipulating time, it can recall spans of time and broadcast them for others to see. When given a particular area, Moody can replay events with extreme precision, giving Leonie the ability to investigate areas of interest. While broadcasting the events, Leonie can replay and fast-forward through a certain span of time. While impressive, there are some limitations. Moody Blues can't reenact certain actions, like another stand's ability to teleport. Stray Cat is a puzzle in and of itself. It makes it on this list because the user and the stand are kind of mixed. Stray Cat manifests when Tama the cat is brought back to life, but the stand Stray Cat buds where Tama is buried. To make matters even more bizarre, Stray Cat's powers are actually air manipulation. So, to recap, a dead cat is reincarnated as a plant, and its powers are deadly air bubbles. Yeah, nothing about this adds up, but hey, that's why this stand is on the list. You would think the user of such a gross-looking stand would be gross themselves, but lo and behold, the controller of this gross yellow blob stuff is pretty handsome. Yellow Temperance is a flesh-eating blob that can be used both as an effective weapon and as a defensive shield and disguise. The more organic flesh Yellow Temperance eats, the stronger and bigger it becomes. If used correctly, Yellow Temperance is an all-in-one package. You can't touch it because it'll eat your flesh, but it can go after you and become stronger. A stand can be anything. We have seen stands be objects and structures, but what if a stand could be anything or any structure? High Priestess can assimilate and become any mineral or metal and even assume the shape of any object made of minerals or metal. This can include weapons or complex mechanisms or even a simple rock. It can assimilate completely and even replicate the feel of an object, making it a particularly creative stand. Because it can meld with any mineral-based object, it can even disappear into walls and floors. Even though it's small, if it assimilates enough material, it can get bigger. Named, of course, after the famous thrash metal band, Metallica is a deceptively simple stand with a number of uses. Metallica is a bunch of metal slugs that inhabit Risotto Nero's body and allow him to control the iron around him and within his body. Risotto can control any iron within a 10-meter circle and is precise enough that he can control the iron in the air and in the ground. Amazingly, he can even control the iron found in blood. Not only does he have the ability to materialize metal inside another person's body, but he can pull iron out of a person's blood, which affects the body's ability to carry oxygen, which in turn causes them to suffocate. Brutal! There are certain feelings we all experience in our lives: loss, regret, and guilt. The lock weaponizes a person's guilt. The lock's user, Tamami Kobayashi, makes his victims feel a twinge of guilt. It can be about anything from catching them in a lie or witnessing a wrongdoing. When that happens, a giant lock appears on the person and amplifies the feeling of guilt tenfold. While the lock has zero combat abilities, it is no less dangerous. Imagine just carrying around a physical lock in your chest while feeling the weight of the world on your shoulders. It can be unbearable. Some of the most impressive stands have come from the manifesting everyday objects. Superfly manifests itself as a transmission tower, and its defining ability is to trap a person inside it. Described by Toyohiro Kanedaichi, its user, Superfly uses the prisoner's own energy to power itself and keep them locked up. Not only does it keep one person inside, but any attack done to the structure is redirected back at the attacker. When Josuke and Okuyasu try to punch the tower with their stands, Superfly retaliates by creating metal arms and punching them back with the same energy. Stands that appear as objects or weapons are usually wielded by the user, and some stands protect their user by wrapping themselves around them. However, White Album is a suit that is designed to be worn by the user. Ghiaccio dons the White Album suit and uses its ability to super freeze anything it touches. It uses the air around it to super freeze people, objects, and even itself, both offensively and defensively. Because it's a suit that can harden, Ghiaccio is basically protected at all times from non-stand attacks, and even against stands, he has a high defense. There are days where the sun can be a bit too close to the earth. However, it can always be made worse by a mini-sun being just a few hundred feet above the ground. The sun is just that, a mini-sun that can increase the temperature of a very large area. It might seem basic, but the sun is an incredible force that is capable of raising the temperature to over 150 degrees. If the targets don't die of heat stroke, the sun is able to shoot out intense heat beams and cover the land in scorching rays. Before Echoes, we just assumed that stands just came as they were. Echoes was different because it was the first stand to grow, so to speak. Koichi Hirose was struck by the stand arrow, and Echoes formed first as an egg. Throughout the series, Echoes grew until it could become 3 different forms called acts, each with a different ability. Act 1 can generate sound if Koichi writes them on a person or thing. Act 2 can create sound effects, making them stronger. And Act 3 can freeze or stop anything by increasing its weight. One of JoJo's motifs is naming characters or stands after famous musicians or songs. How they get around copyright is beyond me. King Crimson is a powerful stand that has an interesting take on time manipulation. Unlike the world, which can stop time, King Crimson can erase time up to 10 seconds. While in the time erasure, only the stand's user, Diavolo, is aware of what happened. People outside the time erasure have no idea what was supposed to take place and are only aware of a gap in their memory. Because of this ability, he is also able to look ahead in time for a short distance. A drop of water in the desert can be a godsend for people. However, Ndul is counting on that to kill his victims. Geb is a water-based stand that can be controlled from a far-off distance. Because of its unassuming nature, Geb can remain hidden in plain sight before it materializes and claws at its victims. Because it's water, normal attacks don't do anything to it. Containing it would only do so much, because Geb could either puncture the container or slip out of any crack. Water is a very versatile substance, so as a result, Geb is just as versatile. Don't be fooled! That wall outlet is no ordinary household fixture. It's a stand! Bastet takes this plain form and can appear anywhere, even in places where an outlet shouldn't be. Anyone who touches it will be magnetized, and all metal objects will be attracted to the victim. It'll start out small, the force will be weak and might come off as mildly annoying at first. Before long, though, magnetism will get stronger and stronger until large objects come flying at the victim, eventually killing them. You're gonna see a lot of brutal stands on this list, but Ratt is probably one of the most brutal. It may seem harmless enough since its user is just an ordinary rat, however this small artillery-mounted cannon has darts that can melt human flesh. Once hit, flesh and other organic material becomes melted and sludge-like. The rat can eat and mold this material, and it is permanent. In fact, only Crazy Diamond, Josuke's stand, can heal it. Because of its small size and devastating power, Ratt can be used in a myriad of ways and avoid detection by untrained hunters. Physics puzzles can be fun, and so can physics-based stands. Kraft Work is Sail's stand and allows him to freeze any object or person in place. While frozen, Kraft Work can build up kinetic energy in the frozen object and release it all when he unfreezes the object or person. So basically, this stand is the stasis rune for any Breath of the Wild fans watching. Kraft Work has a ton of utility with this ability. Outside of battle, it can be used for mobility and travel. I kinda wish we saw more of this stand. A stand's ability to affect the world around it is out of this world. A great example is Okuyasu's stand, the Hand. The Hand may seem like your average power-type stand like Crazy Diamond or Star Platinum, but it's on this list for its right hand. The Hand can erase anything in the space its right hand swipes. The Hand can erase anything physically, from the earth to air. An impressive example is when Josuke and Okuyasu first meet. The Hand erases the space between the two and closes the distance, making Josuke face him at a close range. Hindsight is always 20/20, and if someone had that kind of knowledge, they would be unstoppable. Boingo of the Oingo Boingo brothers has the stand Tohth. This stand can't fight, and Boingo himself is pretty weak, but this enchanted manga holds more than just offensive caricatures. Tohth's pages tell the future with 100% accuracy and without fail. When Boingo opens up the book, drawings begin to appear and tell the story of what will be. The story doesn't have any words or context, so it can be a bit misleading, but whatever Tohth shows on its pages are true. It just might be in the right context you want. Now this stand is one that might not be ill-equipped for a fight, but is perfect for a trap or ambush. Soft Machine has the ability to deflate people. If someone is poked by its rapier, they act like a balloon that has just been pricked and begin to fold and deflate, all the air escaping from their small wound. Once deflated, Soft Machine's victims can be pulled through small places with ease. This deflating ability doesn't just work on people, but objects as well. It's deceptive, disturbing, and the perfect stand to end this list. And those are the top 30 weirdest stands in the JoJo anime. So which one do you think is the strangest or most creative? My personal favorite is Pearl Jam, but only because I wish I could cure all my ailments by eating Italian food. We know that there are so many more that could be on this list, so let us know which ones you would have put on here in the comments down below. Be sure to give us a like if you liked this video and hit that bell to see more CBR content.